The diner was nearly empty that late Saturday afternoon, the kind of quiet that lets you hear the hum of the old refrigerator behind the counter and the occasional clink of silverware. Outside, the sun hung low, casting golden streaks through the dusty blinds. Daniel Harper sat in his usual booth by the window, hands wrapped around a mug of black coffee. His 14-year-old daughter, Sophie, sat across from him, sipping a chocolate milkshake and scrolling idly through her phone. He was a single dad, had been since Sophie was 7. The years hadn't been easy, but he'd learned to live in a way that made her feel secure, even if he often felt like he was holding everything together with duct tape and grit. That's when he heard it. A sharp laugh. A whisper that wasn't quite quiet enough. 2 teenage boys, sitting a few booths over, had their heads leaned together, smirks tugging at their lips. "That's her," one muttered, nodding towards Sophie. "Heard she's easy. Just ask Ryan." Daniel's stomach dropped. His hand froze on the coffee mug. He could feel the heat crawling up his neck, not from shame for his daughter. No, Sophie was a good kid, smarter and kinder than most adults he knew, but from the raw, white-hot anger of hearing her name twisted into something ugly. Sophie's shoulders tensed, but she didn't look up. She'd heard. Daniel's mind flashed back to middle school, when kids had started rumors about her just because she'd hung out with a boy in art class. It hadn't mattered that they were only working on a project, the whispers had started, and in a small town, whispers moved faster than truth. Now, here it was again, uglier and more venomous. He took a breath. Then another. Walking over to those boys and shouting would feel good, for about 5 seconds. But he knew it wouldn't change a thing. They'd just laugh and tell their friends how the crazy single dad couldn't take a joke. Instead, Daniel stood up slowly, his eyes never leaving the boys' table. He walked over, calm but steady, and said, "Hey. You two know Sophie?" The boys glanced at each other. One shrugged. "Kinda." "Why?" Daniel pulled up a chair and sat down at their table, leaning forward. "Then you should know the truth. Not the garbage you just said." They shifted uncomfortably, but he didn't give them space to interrupt. "You think you know her? You don't. You don't know that she spends her weekends volunteering at the animal shelter. You don't know she's been taking care of her grandma every evening because her grandma can't walk anymore. You don't know she's top of her class, or that she's had to grow up faster than most kids because her mom's gone and I work 2 jobs just to keep the lights on." His voice stayed even, but every word carried weight. "What you just said? It's a lie. And lies like that stick. They ruin people. I've seen kids lose everything because someone wanted to get a laugh." He leaned closer. "So I'll tell you this once, words matter. If you wouldn't want someone saying it about your sister or your mom, don't say it about mine." The boys' smirks faded. They didn't meet his eyes. Daniel stood, pushed the chair back in, and added, "You don't have to like her. But you will respect her." He walked back to his booth, sat down, and picked up his coffee. Sophie was looking at him, wide-eyed. "Dad, you didn't have to do that." He smiled softly. "Yes, I did. Because one day, you'll understand, you don't let lies define you, and you don't let cowards get away with them." For the rest of their meal, the boys kept their heads down. And the next week, Sophie told him something strange. One of them had approached her in the hallway, eyes on the floor, and muttered, "Sorry. I was being a jerk." It wasn't much. But it was enough. Because Daniel knew the truth, kindness and decency might not silence every whisper, but they could make people think twice before they spoke. And that was how change began. That night, as he closed Sophie's bedroom door after saying goodnight, he thought about the world she was growing up in. Cruelty was easy. Gossip was easy. But raising a daughter who knew her worth, and teaching others to respect it? That was worth every fight.